Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Claire and Holden's Escapade, and Victoria's Secret Alliance. Victoria Newman should be asked for assistance by Jack Abbott. In the meantime, Holden Novak and Claire Grace Newman embark on an adventure. But will it be risky or thrilling? Let's discuss the upcoming events in the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. Kyle swallows his pride after Adam's retaliation hits a roadblock. While Kyle Abbott overcomes his pride in an attempt to prove himself to Claire Newman, Adam Newman's retaliation will encounter a roadblock. Claire is unable to fulfill Kyle's wish to start over with a fresh start and put an end to his romance. If Kyle genuinely wants to repair all the harm he has caused, he will need to work hard. Claire, though, might be a useful starting point. Claire can demand that Kyle swear to quit monitoring her friendships because she was offended when he warned Holden Novak to stay away from her. Additionally, Claire could want Kyle to concentrate on being less possessive overall and apologize to Holden. On Tuesday's Y&R episode, Kyle will swallow his pride and make an effort to be a better guy, but his relationship will face further problems. Chelsea Lawson and Adam will be dealing with their own problems in the meanwhile. The reason for this is that Adam is about to present a proposal that Chelsea isn't quite convinced by. Adam suggested using Abbott Communications as a test subject for AI software during his most recent strategy meeting with Victor Newman. Adam wants Billy Abbott's business to be the test subject after the Newmans purchase the company that Kane Ashby's team created. Adam will update Chelsea on her failed opportunities and emphasize the significance of confronting Billy, who poses a significant risk due to his Kane affiliation. While a part of Chelsea will sympathize with Adam's perspective, another part of her could find it excessive to totally demolish Abbott Communications. Chelsea will have doubts and worries because there are ethical and legal considerations to make while utilizing this AI program. Chelsea might also worry that Adam's vindictive ambitions are the main force behind this plot and start to worry about it. Chelsea should eventually give up, but Adam's strategy will encounter a roadblock while he tries to persuade her of his intentions. Conversely, Sally Spectra will not back Billy's own AI software objectives. Sally could find it difficult to believe that it will truly frighten Victor, even though Billy says he won't need to utilize that software and that the threat will be sufficient. Since Victor has no fear of anything, it is unlikely that he will relinquish Chancellor or provide funding for Abbott Communications, as Billy expects. Sally might anticipate that Billy will ultimately be compelled to utilize the program, potentially exposing him to a jail term. Kane has a secret goal and intends to take control of the AI program without Billy's awareness, therefore that may be the case. Diane Jenkins Abbott and Jack Abbott are alerted by Sally to the difficulties Billy is headed for, but Michael Baldwin might be subject to greater pressure from Phyllis Summers. How will Michael respond to all of Phyllis's concerns since she can see he is hiding something? Is it possible for Michael to divert Phyllis' attention from his secret Victor arrangement? Was Victor able to separate Claire and Kyle in the end? On The Young and the Restless, Claire is coping with a slew of shocking revelations. The Newman heiress found out that Kyle, her boyfriend, had not been truthful with her. Kyle and Victor's agreement is their most recent secret. Victor may have caused more harm than good, even if he believed that telling Claire was the correct thing to do. Kyle and Claire are about to split up. After Kyle lied about kissing Audra in France, she is enraged. Claire turned to her grandfather, Victor, for support. When Claire told Victor what transpired between Kyle and Audra while they were traveling, Victor became interested. Victor explained the deal to Claire as she questioned whether she could trust Kyle. As part of their agreement, Kyle promised to leave town and give Victor $5 million if he ever damaged Claire. Victor explained the pact to Claire as evidence of Kyle's genuine love for her. But there may be another reason why the mustache did it. Since the beginning of their relationship, Victor has been hostile towards Kyle. He tried everything to break them up, even hiring Audra to woo Kyle. After his strategy failed, Victor unexpectedly changed his mind about the relationship. Or did he? Fans are beginning to suspect Victor because of his newfound support for Claire and Kyle. When it comes to family and corporate affairs, the Newman patriarch typically has a secret agenda. Victor may have been covertly planning to ruin Claire and Kyle's relationship even though he approved of them. He might have told Claire about the deal, which would have been the last straw. Claire Grace Newman had long believed that she could see through the schemes and manipulations that often tangled around her family's legacy, but as her life twisted in unexpected directions, it became clear that she was now caught in the middle of a storm that no amount of preparation could have braced her for, because while Holden Novak had presented himself as the thrill-seeking confidant she hadn't known she needed, the mere act of following him into an escapade beyond Genoa City's neatly manicured boundaries was both a dangerous risk and an irresistible thrill. And Victoria Newman, her mother, knew far more than she was letting on, for Victoria was secretly aligning herself with Jack Abbott, a man who had once been her adversary but was now positioning himself as an ally in the name of family, power, and the tangled threads of corporate warfare. And it was in this very crossroads that Jack finally resolved to ask Victoria for assistance, not because he trusted her implicitly, but because he knew that in the Dance of Titans, one could never truly conquer Newman Enterprises without first enlisting one of its own, while Claire, in the meantime, found herself venturing with Holden on an adventure that might have started as a distraction from the heartbreak and betrayal she had endured with Kyle Abbott, but which quickly spiraled into a test of loyalty, trust, and courage. For Holden's charm was disarming, his rebellious streak intoxicating, and his defiance of Kyle's overprotective nature exactly the kind of spark Claire needed to remind herself that she wasn't defined solely by the scars left behind from Kyle's lies, Victor's manipulations, or the weight of carrying the Newman name. And yet, even as she leaned into the dangerous thrill of Holden's presence, the shadows of Genoa City's politics never released their grip, because Kyle Abbott, bruised by rejection and weighed down by guilt, was forcing himself to swallow his pride, determined to win Claire back by proving that he could be a better man, even as Adam Newman's own retaliation efforts hit a massive roadblock, reminding viewers once again that in Genoa City, no plan, no matter how carefully orchestrated, ever went off without unexpected consequences. And so while Kyle pushed forward with his desperate attempts at redemption, insisting to Claire that they could start over with a clean slate, she could not simply erase the sting of betrayal from her memory, nor could she forgive the way he had tried to control her relationships, most recently warning Holden to stay away as if she were incapable of choosing her own companions. And so Claire began to set her own terms, demanding that if Kyle truly wanted another chance, he would have to make tangible sacrifices, swearing to stop monitoring her friendships, apologizing to Holden for the insult he had delivered, and proving through action rather than words that he could release the possessiveness that had suffocated her in the first place. All while elsewhere in town, Adam Newman was tangling himself deeper into schemes that even Chelsea Lawson, his longtime confidant and occasional partner in crime, was no longer sure she could stomach, because Adam's latest plan, using Abbott Communications as a test subject for a controversial AI program, reeked of both genius and vengeance, with Adam convinced that targeting Billy Abbott's business after Newman's acquisition of Kane Ashby's company would give him the ultimate leverage. But Chelsea, though she could understand the appeal of hitting Billy where it hurt, couldn't ignore the ethical, legal, and moral minefield that came with using artificial intelligence to demolish an entire communications empire, nor could she shake the feeling that Adam's motivation was less about business and more about spite. And though Adam insisted she trust him, Chelsea's resistance became the very roadblock that stalled his campaign, while Sally Spectra, caught in Billy's orbit, found herself refusing to endorse his counter-strategy with AI software, dismissing his belief that the mere threat of the technology would be enough to make Victor Newman tremble. For as Sally correctly noted, Victor feared nothing and was unlikely to surrender control of Chancellor or loosen his grip on Newman's rivals. And though Billy reassured her that he would never actually deploy the program, only use it as leverage, Sally's instincts told her that desperation might eventually push Billy across that line, exposing him not just to professional ruin but potentially to criminal consequences, especially since Kane Ashby himself harbored a secret ambition to seize control of the AI without Billy even realizing, a double-cross that was quietly brewing beneath the surface. And as Sally delivered her warning to Jack and Diane about the dangerous path Billy was on, another storm was forming in the background, with Phyllis Summers closing in on Michael Baldwin, pressing him harder and harder about the secrets she suspected he was hiding, particularly his covert arrangement with Victor, which if exposed, could alter alliances and tear open rifts far larger than any personal quarrel. And threading through all of this chaos was the painful unraveling of Kyle and Claire's relationship. For Claire, despite her willingness to give Kyle a chance to make amends, could not forget the sting of betrayal that came not just from the kiss he shared with Audra in France but also from the revelation that Kyle had been keeping secrets with her grandfather Victor, who had once again inserted himself into her love life under the guise of protection, revealing to her that he and Kyle had struck an agreement in which Kyle vowed to leave town and pay Victor $5 million should he ever hurt her, a revelation that left Claire both shaken and furious, because while Victor framed it as proof of Kyle's devotion, the truth was far murkier, as it fed into the suspicion that Victor never fully supported her relationship in the first place, and longtime fans of The Young and the Restless began to whisper among themselves that perhaps Victor's sudden turn toward supporting Claire and Kyle had only ever been a ruse, a calculated move to manipulate the situation to his own ends, since the mustache's history of interference in his children and grandchildren's personal lives often came with hidden motives, and indeed, some began to believe that Victor had deliberately revealed the deal to Claire, knowing full well that it would be the final blow to her trust in Kyle, which, if true, would mean that his hand had guided the inevitable fracture between them, even as he pretended to stand by his granddaughter, and so Claire, standing at this painful crossroads, had to decide whether to cling to a fractured relationship with Kyle, take a chance on the uncertain yet thrilling path Holden was offering her, or navigate her future with the knowledge that her grandfather's shadow loomed over every choice she made, while Victoria, ever the strategist, concealed her own secret alliance with Jack Abbott, positioning herself not only as a mother watching her daughter's heartbreak unfold but as a corporate warrior quietly readying herself for the battles yet to come, ensuring that even as the personal lives of Genoa City's residents spiraled into chaos, the war for power, legacy, and dominance remained as fierce, dramatic, and unpredictable as ever. The air in Genoa City seemed thicker with tension as new alliances took shape in the shadows, and while Claire Grace Newman grappled with her heartbreak over Kyle's betrayal and Victor's unnerving interference, the truth was that the real game was only just beginning, because Victoria Newman, who outwardly appeared to be standing by her daughter and offering gentle maternal support, was in reality building a secret alliance with Jack Abbott, and this pact had the potential to shake the foundation of both Newman Enterprises and Jabbo, since Jack, weary from years of fighting alone against Victor's merciless tactics, had come to recognize that sometimes survival required partnering with those you least expected, and Victoria, for her part, knew that she could not forever live in her father's shadow, so the secret conversations she and Jack shared in hushed tones behind closed doors carried with them a dangerous promise to pool their resources, their influence, and their cunning into something that might finally loosen Victor's grip over their lives. Yet for Victoria, it wasn't only about corporate dominance. It was about creating a future where her daughter would not constantly be pawns in Victor's ruthless games, where Claire could breathe freely without having every romance dissected, judged, and sabotaged by her grandfather. But what Victoria hadn't anticipated was how quickly her daughter would be swept into Holden Novak's world, an escapade that started as a moment of rebellion but was now morphing into something much bigger, much riskier, and potentially catastrophic, because Holden's defiant streak and thirst for danger masked secrets of his own, secrets that could tie directly back to the wider power plays unraveling in Genoa City. And as Claire followed him into uncharted waters, literally and figuratively, the thrill of breaking free from Kyle's possessiveness began to merge with a gnawing sense that she was being drawn into an entirely different kind of storm, the kind that could pit her against her own family once again. And yet, the very thought of adventure gave Claire a freedom she had never known before. For Holden treated her not as Victor's granddaughter, not as the fragile Newman heiress who needed protecting, but as a woman capable of making her own choices, daring her to take risks, daring her to define herself beyond the family legacy. And though she tried to ignore the gnawing fear in her gut that Holden's motives weren't entirely pure, the fire in her veins when she was with him outweighed the doubts, and it was this fire that made Kyle's desperate attempts at reconciliation fall flat, even as he humbled himself before her and tried to swallow the very pride that had once defined him, because Claire could no longer see him as the man she once loved without reservation, not after the kiss with Audra, not after the lies, and certainly not after discovering the humiliating pact with Victor, which felt less like love and more like betrayal dressed up as sacrifice. And in the midst of her personal chaos, Adam Newman's warpath collided with obstacle after obstacle, because his AI plot, brilliant though it might have been, was unraveling under Chelsea Lawson's growing resistance, for while Chelsea could sympathize with Adam's desire to dismantle Billy Abbott's hold and prove himself once again in the family hierarchy, She could not stomach the idea of destroying Abbott communications through manipulative, unethical means, especially when she feared Adam's heart was driven not by vision but by vengeance, and though Adam pressed harder, insisting that this was the only way to expose Billy's weakness, Chelsea's doubts planted seeds of hesitation that bloomed into a full-blown roadblock, leaving Adam frustrated and increasingly isolated, while across town Sally Spectra was locked in her own tug-of-war with Billy, trying to reason with him that his strategy of waving around AI software as a threat would not scare Victor, because if history had proven anything, it was that Victor Newman feared no man, no company, no technology, and Billy's insistence that the bluff would be enough to shift the balance only made Sally fear that his arrogance would eventually push him to use the software outright, and if he did, the fallout could destroy not only Billy but everyone tethered to him, including Jack and Jabbo, which was exactly what Kane Ashby was quietly counting on, since his secret ambition was to take the software for himself, undercut Billy, and seize the kind of power he had always craved. And it was this simmering betrayal that made Sally race to Diane and Jack with her concerns, warning them that Billy was heading for disaster. But while Jack tried to contain the storm within his family, he was simultaneously being pulled deeper into Victoria's clandestine alliance, the two of them sketching out scenarios and strategies in whispered meetings, aware that if Victor ever discovered their partnership, the fallout could be nuclear, but bound together by mutual necessity and the unspoken desire to break free from his chokehold. And woven into all of this was Phyllis Summers, whose determination to pry the truth from Michael Baldwin grew stronger with each passing day, for she could sense with her uncanny intuition that Michael was hiding something that tied directly back to Victor. And though Michael tried to deflect, charm, and redirect her suspicions, Phyllis's relentlessness threatened to pull the lid off Victor's secret dealings, a revelation that could send ripples crashing through every single plot line currently unfolding. And through it all, the question lingered like a haunting refrain. Had Victor Newman once again orchestrated the very drama his family was suffering through? Had he deliberately told Claire about the deal with Kyle knowing it would break them apart? Had he calculated her pain in order to ensure she would walk away from a man he never truly wanted her to be with? And if so, what future was he trying to design for her? And how did Holden Novak fit into that vision? For it seemed unlikely that Holden's sudden closeness to Claire was mere coincidence, especially when whispers began to circulate that he might have his own connections, his own agenda, and perhaps even his own ties to those who sought to challenge Victor's empire. And so as Claire and Holden's escapade unfolded with all the intoxicating danger of first love mixed with rebellion, as Kyle fought to redeem himself while slowly realizing he may have already lost her for good, as Adam pushed against Chelsea's moral roadblocks and Billy's arrogance inched closer to catastrophe, as Sally maneuvered to shield herself from collateral damage and Kane sharpened his hidden dagger, as Phyllis prowled closer to Michael's secret and Victoria and Jack cemented their alliance in the shadows, the world of Genoa City teetered on the brink of yet another explosive clash where family, love, business, and betrayal would collide, reminding everyone once again that on The Young and the Restless, the only certainty was that no secret stayed buried forever, no alliance was truly safe, and no relationship, whether romantic, familial, or corporate, could survive untouched once Victor Newman decided to make his next move. Holden Novak carried himself with the kind of quiet confidence that could so easily be mistaken for charm. And for Claire, it was intoxicating, a welcome distraction from the storm Kyle had left in his wake. But what she didn't yet realize was that Holden's past wasn't simply the adventurous, slightly reckless background he allowed her glimpses of. It was far more complicated, and perhaps even dangerous. For Holden had connections beyond Genoa City that tied him to players who were now circling Newman Enterprises and Jabbo alike, and though he seemed to present himself as nothing more than a free-spirited man eager to show Claire the thrill of choosing her own destiny, the truth was that Holden had his own agenda, one that might collide directly with Victoria and Jack's secret alliance, and even, unknowingly, with Victor's carefully laid manipulations. To Holden, Claire represented not just a woman he was growing genuinely fond of, but also a doorway into a world of wealth, influence, and secrets he'd long been kept at arm's length from. And while his feelings for her were beginning to shift from calculated interest into something more real, he struggled with the line between authenticity and strategy, for in Genoa City, love and business were always entangled, and it was nearly impossible to tell one from the other. Victoria, meanwhile, was beginning to sense that her daughter's new escapade might not be as simple as a fling or an act of rebellion, And though she hadn't yet uncovered Holden's connections, her instincts told her to tread carefully, especially as her alliance with Jack deepened, because she knew that if Claire became entangled in another web of betrayal or manipulation, Victor would seize the opportunity to regain control, and all of Victoria's careful planning would unravel. Jack, too, began to notice Holden's sudden integration into the Newman orbit and wondered privately if Holden was another pawn Victor had placed on the board or perhaps an unknown rival with his own designs on Newman power. For Kyle, however, Holden was nothing but an obstacle, the living embodiment of his mistakes, and every time he saw Claire with him, the sting of loss grew sharper, driving Kyle further into desperation and determination to win her back, even if that meant confronting Holden directly, a choice that could spark the kind of confrontation that might spiral out of control. And while Claire remained blissfully unaware of Holden's deeper secrets, the viewers watching the saga unfold could see the threads starting to weave together. Adam's AI plot faltering under Chelsea's moral resistance, Billy's arrogance pushing him closer to disaster, Sally's growing fears for her own survival, Kane's looming betrayal, Phyllis's relentless pursuit of Michael's secret, and above all, Victor's shadowy presence, a man who might have orchestrated far more than anyone realized, including the implosion of Claire and Kyle's relationship. Holden, Claire, Jack, and Victoria were all moving pieces on a chessboard Victor had long believed he controlled. But what if, for once, Victor had underestimated the forces gathering against him?